I didn't mean to fall in love with Derek. That's the part people never believe. They think it was obvious from the start, like I saw him once and just knew. But that's not how it happened. It was quieter than that. Slower. The kind of thing you don't notice until you're already too far in and there's no clean way out. The first time I met him, he was already half gone. We were standing outside a bar I barely even liked. One of those places with sticky floors and music that's always a little too loud to talk over. I was there because my friend bailed last minute and I didn't want to admit I'd rather go home than drink alone. Derek was there because that's where he always was on a Friday night. He leaned against the brick wall like it belonged to him. Leather jacket, worn boots, cigarette he didn't even light. He looked comfortable in a way I wasn't. Like this was his territory and he knew exactly how to move inside it. "You got a light?" he asked. Even though his cigarette was still unlit and I didn't smoke, I shook my head. "Sorry, I don't." He smiled anyway, not annoyed, not disappointed, just amused. Worth a try. That should have been it. A nothing moment. But then he stayed there next to me instead of going back inside. We made that lazy kind of small talk that only happens when neither person is in a rush to be somewhere else. "Where are you from? What do you do? You come here often?" Yeah, I know, cliché, but he said it like he was joking about it even as he asked. His name was Derek. He worked construction during the week, helped his uncle with a small contracting business. Lived in the same neighborhood he grew up in. Same friends. Same bars. Same routines. I told him my name was Felix, that I worked a desk job downtown, that I'd only moved to the area a year ago and still felt like a guest in my own apartment. "Must be nice," he said like he meant it. "What, the job?" "No. Being new. Getting to start over." That was the first crack. I didn't see it then, but looking back, that was the moment everything shifted. Inside the bar, his friends kept calling his name, yelling over the music, slapping him on the back when he walked past. He introduced me like it was nothing. "This is Felix," no explanation needed, no labels. I didn't feel like a secret. Not yet. We talked all night. About stupid stuff. About nothing. About everything. The bar closed. Everyone spilled out onto the sidewalk, laughing and arguing about food. Someone suggested going back to Derek's place. Someone else groaned. Plans changed. People peeled off in pairs and rideshares. I assumed that was it, that I'd shake his hand, maybe hug, and go home alone with that familiar hollow feeling. Instead, Derek looked at me and said, "You hungry?" That's how it always starts, right? Not with a confession, not with a kiss, just a question that feels harmless enough to say yes to. His apartment was small and messy in a way that felt lived in, not neglected. Work boots by the door. A couch that had clearly seen better days. Photos on the fridge, him with the same group of guys at different ages, same faces, same smiles, year after year. "This is my life," he said, noticing me looking. He said it casually, but there was something defensive underneath. "It's a good life," I replied, because it seemed like the right thing to say. He nodded, but he didn't look convinced. We ate standing up in the kitchen, greasy takeout straight from the container. At some point, the talking slowed. The space between us changed. The air felt heavier, charged in that way that makes you hyper-aware of your own breathing. He looked at me then, really looked at me. "Felix," he said, and my name sounded different in his mouth. "I should probably tell you something." I waited. My heart was already beating too fast. I don't do this," he said. "I mean, I have, but it's complicated." I should have asked him to explain. I should have taken that as a warning. I stayed the night. That wasn't the plan, at least not the version of the plan I'd tell anyone out loud. But somewhere between the empty takeout boxes and the quiet that settled over the apartment, leaving felt harder than staying. We didn't rush into anything. That's what made it worse. We sat on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, watching some late-night rerun neither of us cared about. "You good?" he asked at one point, glancing over like he was checking for damage. "Yeah," I said. "You?" He let out a breath, half a laugh. He wasn't selling me a version of himself. He was standing in the mess of his own uncertainty, less sure. "I can't do the boyfriend thing," he said suddenly. I swallowed. "Okay. It's not you," he added quickly. "It's just, my life's already full. My job, my friends, My family. I don't have room to blow things up. I'm not asking you to, I said, and I meant it. At least I thought I did. He relaxed a little after that. I let myself believe we were on the same page. For a while we were. We started seeing each other in the in-between spaces of his life. Late nights after work. Sunday mornings when he didn't have anywhere to be. I learned his routines without ever being invited into them fully. I knew which bar his friends preferred, which nights he always spent with them, which parts of his life were off limits without him having to say it. Sometimes I'd be with him and his phone would buzz. He'd glance at it, smile, and type a quick reply. "You're friends?" I'd ask. "Yeah," he'd say, casual. Always casual. He never invited me along. I told myself that was fine, that I was being understanding, that this was just how Derek was. But every time I left his apartment before sunset, every time he walked me to the door instead of asking me to stay, something small chipped away inside me. One night, after a few drinks, I finally asked, "Do they know about me?" He didn't answer right away. That pause told me everything. "They don't need to," he said carefully. "This is just us." I nodded, even though my chest tightened. Right? Just us. But it didn't feel like us. It felt like me fitting into the leftover space of his life, careful not to touch the edges. The worst part was that when it was good, it was really good. He was gentle in ways that surprised me, protective when we were alone. He'd rest his forehead against mine and say things like, "You make it easy," or "I feel calm with you." Those moments made me believe I could wait, that eventually he'd choose me. I didn't realize then that Derek wasn't choosing between me and nothing. He was choosing between me and the life he already knew how to live. The first real crack showed up on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were supposed to be ours. Derek usually finished work early enough to come by my place, or I'd head to his with dinner in a paper bag and no expectations beyond staying in. No crowds, no friends, just the version of him that only existed when it was just us. That night, he texted me an hour before we were supposed to meet. "Gonna be late. Guys wanna grab a drink." I stared at my phone longer than I should have. "Okay," I typed, then deleted it, then typed it again. He showed up close to midnight, smelling like beer and cold air, still smiling, still relaxed, like nothing had been disrupted. "You good?" he asked, kicking off his boots. "Yeah," I said automatically. He didn't notice the lie. Or maybe he did and chose not to touch it. My mind kept circling the same thought over and over. I wasn't angry that he had friends. I wasn't jealous of the bar. I was angry that I wasn't even an option. A few weeks later, it got harder to ignore. He'd cancel plans last minute because someone needed help with a job. Or because his buddy was going through something. Or because it's just easier if I stay over there tonight. There was always a reason. Always reasonable. Always justifiable. And I kept being understanding. Smiling. Saying, "It's fine." Until the words felt hollow in my mouth. One night, after he left early again, I stood in my kitchen staring at the empty doorway long after it closed. That's when it hit me. This wasn't temporary for him. This was the balance he wanted. Me on the side. His life untouched. I brought it up the next time we were together. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just honest. "Where do I fit?" I asked. He frowned like the question itself confused him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, am I just something you come to when everything else is done?" He sat back against the headboard, rubbing his face. "Felix, you're overthinking it." That stung more than if he'd argued. "I'm not asking you to change your whole life," I said carefully. "I'm just asking if there's room for me in it." Silence. Not angry silence. Not defensive. Just heavy. "I don't know how to do that," he finally said. "This is the life I've always had. These people, they're my family. And what am I?" I asked quietly. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw it. The conflict. The guilt. The fear. "You matter," he said. I can't promise more." That was the moment I fell in love with him for real. And the moment I should have walked away. Instead, I nodded. Stayed. Let myself believe that being important was enough. But love doesn't stay quiet forever. It grows. It asks for space. and Derek was already running out of places to hide it. The first time I met his friends, it was an accident. We ran into them outside the same bar where I'd first met Derek months earlier. I was walking with him, fingers loosely linked, not even thinking about it. The street was loud, full of weekend energy, and for a second I felt normal, like this was just my life now. Then I saw his shoulders tense. "Derek!" someone shouted. He dropped my hand instantly. Not dramatically, just reflex. My stomach sank. 3 guys walked over, all familiar faces from the photos on his fridge. Laughing, joking. One of them glanced at me, curious. "Who's your friend?" he asked. There it was. The moment. The choice. Derek hesitated for half a beat too long. "This is Felix," he said. "Nothing more. No, my boyfriend. No, the guy I'm seeing. Just my name, floating there without context." "Cool," the guy said, already turning back to the conversation. I stood there smiling, nodding, pretending it didn't matter. Derek kept a careful distance the entire time, like we were co-workers who'd run into each other outside the office. Later, walking back to his place, I finally snapped. "You didn't even touch me," I said. He sighed like he'd been expecting this. "Felix, I'm not asking for a grand announcement," I cut in. "I just don't want to feel like something you have to hide." He stopped walking, ran a hand through his hair, looked genuinely torn. "It's not hiding," he said. "It's just not making things complicated." "For who?" I asked. He didn't answer. A few weeks later, he told me his family was coming over for a barbecue. Big thing. Everyone there. I joked about crashing it, said it lightly, like I wasn't serious. He didn't laugh. "That wouldn't be a good idea," he said. The words landed like a punch to the chest. "Because?" I asked. "Because they wouldn't get it," he replied. "And I don't want to deal with that right now. Right now. Always right now. Like there would be a later that never seemed to arrive." I started pulling back after that. Not dramatically, just little things. I stopped rearranging my schedule for him. Stopped waiting by my phone. Stopped pretending I wasn't hurt. He noticed. "You've been distant," he said one night, propped up on his elbow, watching me like he was trying to read something he'd missed. "I'm just matching your energy," I replied. That bothered him more than any argument ever had. He wanted me soft, available, easy to fit into the corners of his life without changing its shape. But I was changing. Loving him had taught me what I wanted, and what I couldn't keep accepting. The night it finally broke wasn't explosive. No shouting, no slammed doors, just truth sitting between us, unavoidable. It happened on a Sunday night, the quiet kind that makes everything feel heavier than it should. We were sitting on his couch, the TV on but muted, some game paused halfway through. Derek was scrolling on his phone, half present, the way he often was when his real life hovered just out of reach. I watched him for a long moment before speaking. "If I asked you to choose," I said, "what would you do?" He looked up slowly. "Choose what?" "Me," I said. "Or the life you already have." His jaw tightened immediately. That should have been my answer, but I needed to hear it anyway. "That's not fair," he said. "I know," I replied, "but it's honest." He stood up, pacing like the room suddenly wasn't big enough. "You're asking me to blow everything up." "No," I said quietly. "I'm asking you to let me exist." He stopped moving, faced me. "You exist," he said. "You're here. Only when it's convenient." I shot back. "Only when no one's watching." The words hung between us. He opened his mouth, closed it again. For once, he didn't have a reason ready. "I don't know how to be different," he admitted. "This is who I am, Felix. This is the life I know how to live. And I don't fit into it," I said. He didn't deny it. That was the moment something in me finally went quiet. The part that kept hoping. The part that kept waiting for him to catch up to where I already was. "I love you," I said, and my voice didn't even shake. "But I can't keep loving you like this." He looked at me like he was losing something he didn't realize he was holding. "So what are you saying?" he asked. "I'm saying I won't make myself smaller anymore," I replied. "I won't be your secret. I won't be the thing you choose only when everything else is done." Silence stretched. long, heavy. I don't want to lose you, he said finally. I stood up, my chest aching in a way that felt strangely clean. Then you already have. I left that night without drama. No begging. No last kiss. Just the sound of the door closing behind me. Final and terrifying and right. For weeks afterward, everything felt wrong. I'd reach for my phone out of habit. Wonder what bar he was at. Who he was laughing with. Whether he missed me the way I missed him. Sometimes he'd text. Short messages. You okay? I'd reply politely. Never more. I didn't hate him. That was the hardest part. I understood him too well. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't malicious. He just couldn't let go of the life he was used to, even for love. And maybe that was his choice. Time didn't fix everything, but it did change the shape of the pain. At first, every place reminded me of Derek. The bar where we met. The corner store near his apartment. Even random streets I'd never walked with him before somehow felt haunted by the version of myself I was when I loved him. I tried dating again. Bad idea. Every guy felt like a comparison I didn't want to make. Too available. Too distant. Too sure. Too messy. None of them were him, and that was the problem. Then one night, about 3 months after I left, my phone buzzed at 1:17 a.m. Derek, can I come by? I stared at the screen, my heart immediately doing that stupid hopeful thing I thought I'd killed. Me, why? The typing bubble appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Derek, because I messed up. I should have said no. I knew that. I even typed it out once. Twice. Deleted it both times. When he showed up, he looked different. Not dramatic different. Just worn. Like he hadn't been sleeping well. Like his life had kept moving forward without him really inside it. We stood awkwardly in my doorway until I stepped aside. I miss you, he said finally. I believed him. That was the dangerous part. I think about you all the time, he continued. I keep expecting you to still be there when I come home. I crossed my arms, grounding myself. And I hate that I chose the easy thing, he admitted. I hate that I let you walk away. I waited. Let the silence do the work. I tried, he said. After you left, I tried to imagine changing everything. Coming out. Letting people see me differently. And I realized how scared I am. There it was. The truth stripped bare. I'm still scared, he added quietly. I nodded. I know. He looked at me then, eyes shining with something like desperation. But I don't want a life where you're not in it. The old version of me would have melted, would have reached for him, would have said we'll figure it out together. Instead, I took a breath. Derek, I said gently, missing me isn't the same as choosing me. He flinched. I can't be your almost, I continued. I can't be the thing you regret but don't change for. He swallowed hard. So that's it. I stepped closer, just enough for him to feel me there. It's only it if you still can't choose. We stood like that for a long moment, everything unresolved, everything possible and impossible at the same time. When he left, he didn't ask me to wait. And that told me more than any promise ever could. The last time I saw Derek was ordinary in the most painful way. No dramatic reunion. No tearful goodbye. Just a random Tuesday afternoon when I ran into him outside a hardware store downtown. He was loading lumber into the back of his truck. Sleeves rolled up, forearms dusted with sawdust. He saw me at the same time. Felix, he said, like my name had been sitting in his chest waiting to be used. Hey, I replied. We stood there awkwardly. The city moving around us, cars passing, people living their lives like nothing monumental had ever happened between us. You look good, he said. So do you, I answered, because it was true. He looked solid, grounded, like someone who'd made peace with staying exactly where he was. We talked for a minute. Work, weather, nothing that mattered and everything that did hiding underneath it. I think about you sometimes, he said quietly. I nodded. Me too. He hesitated, then asked the question I knew was coming. Are you happy? I thought about it honestly. About the quiet nights alone that no longer felt empty. About not checking my phone waiting for permission to matter. About how the ache had dulled into something softer, something survivable. I am, I said. Yeah, I am. He smiled at that, and it wasn't forced. It was real. And somehow that hurt less than I expected. I'm glad, he said. I realized something important. I didn't regret loving him. I regretted how long I'd stayed after I knew he couldn't choose me. Derek taught me what it feels like to be almost chosen, almost claimed, almost enough. And that lesson stayed with me in ways I wouldn't trade back, even if I could. Because now I know this. Love shouldn't feel like waiting in the shadows of someone else's life. And the right person won't ask you to compete with their comfort. They'll choose you, fully, openly, without hesitation. That's the ending. Not because we didn't love each other, but because sometimes love isn't enough when one person can't let go of the life they're used to.